So let's look at emotions. So what exactly is an emotion? Everybody thinks they know what an emotion is until you're asked to give a definition. But here's a definition by Shatter, Gilbert and Wegner from 2009. A positive or negative experience that is associated with a particular pattern of physiological activity. And they're referred to 6 basic emotions: anger, disgust, fear, joy, sadness, and surprise. There are also loads of other emotions like love, rage, awe, grief, wonder, pain, pleasure, panic, etc. Barbara Fredrickson, the leading positive psychologist on emotions, has drawn up a list of 10 positive emotions: amusement, awe, contentment, gratitude, hope, inspiration, interest, joy, love, and pride. And I've underlined the 4 main ones: contentment, interest, joy, and love. So remember earlier on, we were talking about the negativity bias and how we are prone to see the negatives, and that negativity shouts louder for our attention. Therefore, we need 3 or 4 positive emotions for every negative emotion. And we are going to experience negative emotions in life. That's life. We all have problems. As we were saying earlier, we all have challenges. We all have toxic situations and people that we have to be around. But when we experience 3 or 4 positive emotions and actively increase our positive emotions, we can obtain an optimal level of well-being and maintain that optimal level of well-being despite all the negativity around us and our negativity bias. Emotions are associated with actions, tendencies, or urges to act. They trigger a way of acting in us. They can also trigger an unconscious action. For example, fear can trigger fight, flight, or freeze actions, can send us into a fight, flight, or freeze mode. Anger can trigger an urge to attack. Negative emotions narrow our thought, action, reaction so that we can only focus on the problem. And this is a major key concept in positive psychology. So what do we do when we experience a negative emotion? This is a very effective, simple technique. It's just the basic CBT skill, cognitive behavioral therapy, from cognitive behavioral therapy. And it's about labeling your emotions. So when I experience the emotion of fear, I picture a box in my head labeled fears. And I imagine myself putting the emotion into that box. Now, that sounds ridiculously simple, but it also is ridiculously effective, because there's a lot of science behind when we rationalize and when we use our cognitive ability to label the emotion, how it moves it to a more rational part of our brain. And it is a highly effective method of reducing fear and anxiety. And that science has proven that. It takes practice, but it really is worth giving a try. So one of the most important things about emotions is that we shouldn't resist them. And I would even question calling them negative or positive, because emotions are just emotions. They're signposts. They give us information. And when we resist them or try to suppress them, that's when the problems start. And a quote attributed to Carl Jung, I don't think he actually said it, but it is a concept in his teachings. When you resist an emotion, it persists and it grows. And actually, the resistance and the denial of emotions is what brings most people to therapy and leads to mental anguish. So positive emotions, if we like to call them positive emotions, broaden an individual's thought action repertoire. And this is a key concept of positive psychology. And it is called Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory. So when we have these positive emotions, and when we experience these positive emotions, our thought action repertoire is broadened. Novel, creative, and unscripted paths of thought and action appear out in front of us. Play, creativity, exploration, learning, nurturing relationships, bonding, developing coping skills are all attributed to these positive emotions. And thereby, we build the individual personal resources of physical resources, intellectual resources, social resources, and psychological resources. So here is my own model for explaining Barbara Fredrickson's broaden and build theory. When we experience negative emotions, we seem to only focus on the problem. And I know for sure there's been times in my life when I only felt I could see the problem, that all the solutions, the opportunities, the supports that were open to me, the knowledge that I had of how to get out of the situation paled, and all I could see and focus on and think about was the problem. Barbara Fredrickson theory explains that when we have positive emotions, our scope of attention broadens to include the solutions, the opportunities, the supports, and the environmental knowledge that help us to know how to handle the problem. It also helps us to build physical, intellectual, social, and psychological resources, which create upward spirals. Positive emotions increase our creative thinking, our resilience, our coping skills, our life satisfaction, our productivity, our physical health, our resilience, our popularity, and our goal achievement, while decreasing our stress and anxiety levels and the physical effects of stress. So, what can we do to increase our positive emotions? A great way, and I've seen this with a good few people, is to return to a hobby you used to love. Increase situations of joy by being with people that make you happy. Watch funny films or comedians. Be creative. Sing, play music, draw, photography, do a visual tour of an art gallery, watch a drama or film, bake, cook, try out new recipes, whichever way appeals to you to be creative. Music and dancing are great sources of positive emotions. Exercise, even though we mightn't like it at the start, does increase our positive emotions. Enjoying time in nature, and there's been a lot of research on forest bathing and spending time in nature and how it increases our well-being. Meditation or prayer. Sharing some time with somebody. Increasing your gratitude. Finding meaning and purpose. And doing good acts that help you to share your meaning with others. Playing to your strengths and being kind. All of those things increase your positive emotions, and to increase the effect of those positive emotions, here are some tips. Journaling every day, 10-15 minutes of writing things in the morning or things in the evening really help increase the effect of any intervention. You can track your emotions on Barbara Fredrickson's Love 2.0 site. That's a free tool. You can involve family and friends for the support and to keep you going. Discover your flow. Surround yourself with items that spark joy in you, little reminders to increase your happiness. And you can notice unexpected sources of joy. And at the end of the day, the more you put into something, the more you'll get out of it, like everything.